Welcome back to another episode of Size Eyes. Hope you guys are doing well. I've concluded the SciOS, all the episodes that were part of that, going through my life operating system. So this is first episode coming out of that. So this episode is going to be talking about my content creation. This idea of having this episode was actually at the recommendation of one of my new friends, Vishnu. So shout out to Vishnu there if you're listening. Content creator in his own right, and a very insightful, very thoughtful, and deeply connected internally and externally person. So thank you, Vishnu, for giving me this idea. So let's put it into action, put it into execution mode here. So this episode I'm going to be talking about each of the different ways that I create content and how I go about that process for each of them. So I'm going to be deep diving and going straight through the entire process for the 5 channels of content: my blog, my vlog, my podcast, my newsletter, as well as my Unplugged Side Budgets YouTube channel. So all 5. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first one is the blog. So I'm not going to talk about the inspiration and all that backstory, right? I'm just going to talk straight through the process. So the blog, as you know if you've followed it at all, is my actual daily journal that I keep, my long form journal, my personal diary. So I have a list journal as well as this freeform journal, right? So this is the freeform journal. And so within this journal, I'll write my daily entry. I'll usually either write it at night, one of the last things I do before I sleep to get into that mode, or one of the first things that I do after I wake up, or as part of my startup routine when I'm in the office early in the morning. So I'll write my daily entry, then I will take pictures of it, and then I will crop the image on Google Photos, and then if I need to, I'll blur out any things, any sections, any words, any sentences, etc. that may be sensitive in terms of people or content that I don't necessarily want to be public or part of my journal post, but that's part of my journal, of part of who I am, right? So I'll crop that out or blur that out, not blur, just using markup feature within Google Photos, I'll do that. And then I will go to Spaces by Wix, which my website is through Wix. So I'll go to create a blog post, and then within that blog post, in the body, I'll go in and insert those images that I've edited. Once I've inserted those images that I've edited, I'll close that out, and then I'll go onto my Notion on desktop, go into my daily tracking database, which if you've listened to my SciOS, you'll know what exactly that is. It's basically how I keep track of everything on a daily basis. And one of those within the page is my actual journal that I type out in addition to initially writing out. And so when I type it out, I'll type it out within that day's entry. So I'll type it out for July 7th. And that entry for that day will be in there. So once I've typed that out, it can take anywhere from, depending on how short it is, it takes about maybe 3 to 4 minutes to type out per page that I write out. So that's kind of maybe a little bit longer, but that's about the pace that I've seen if I've written essentially every line in my journal. And then I will, once I've typed that out, I will copy and paste the sections. Again, if it's content that that I don't want to be public, I'll not copy and paste that piece of it, but I'll copy and paste that blog post, that journal entry, which I've typed out, copy and paste it into wix.com, the editor, within the blog section. So I'll go to wix.com on desktop, go to my site, go to my dashboard, go to my blog, manage blog posts, and then go to the blog post, which was saved as a draft from my phone, remember, which has those images. Then I'll copy and paste the entry, and then I'll create a title for that entry first in Notion, and then copy and paste that into desktop Wix on the blog post editor. And then once that's there, I'll make sure everything's spaced out correctly, formatted correctly, and then I will go to schedule post, and I'll schedule the post for whenever I want it to be published. And I have a setting on there that has, for everyone who's subscribed, have their email, they'll be getting that that blog post notification that a new blog post has been published. So all that, depending on how long the entry actually is, can take anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30 minutes sometimes if it's a really long post. So that's my blog. So that's pretty straightforward. Then I have the vlog, which I've gone through many iterations. I'll share with you my current iteration. My previous iteration, I was lagging a week behind of real time. So let's say I was recording the vlog on Monday the 8th, let's say, then the vlog on YouTube wouldn't actually be published until the 15th, because I was a week behind because of the editing that I'm doing on the desktop. But I found a way to do everything on mobile, which makes the process so much more easier. And so the process of the vlog is obviously recording the vlog itself, which is just I'll just record on my phone. So it'll be a video on Google Photos. Then I'll go into the actual video, go into edit mode, and I'll go through the video, find a specific image that I like, and export that frame. So click export frame, so now that's an image. And then I'll go into Filmora Go, which is an app that I think is free, but I pay for to not have their logo or whatever at the end. So I forgot how much that is, but I can shout out to them. So they have the mobile app. So I have Filmora Go. Pretty easy to use, I'd say. So I go in there, add in the video or videos that I have recorded for that day, for that vlog. I'll edit it. So I'll add in the date, the date, as well as the time of day, morning, afternoon, evening, night. I'll add it into the beginning or to the beginning of the particular video that it's according to. And then I will add in any transitions if there are multiple videos. So I'll just kind of pick and choose whichever one I feel I want to use for the transitions. And then I'll add in the ending subscribe button. And so that's the video. Then I export it in the 720p, I believe. No logo roll as of now, but that might change. So I'll export it, and then once it's exported, there's a little screen on there that allows you to upload straight to YouTube. And so I click on YouTube, and then it takes me straight to YouTube, and it'll start uploading. And then I create the title, name, the description, which is just the date, private or publish the schedule. So I'll publish the schedule usually that night. So let's say I'm recorded a vlog on Monday, either Monday night or Tuesday morning. I'll do all this and schedule it for Tuesday evening is my current cadence. And so while that YouTube video is uploading, I'll go into Canva on my Canva Pro account, I believe, and I'll go into one of my templates that I have for YouTube vlogs, and I'll update the title, which is the title of what the video is on YouTube, and I'll make it that, in the text piece of the Canva template of the thumbnail. I'll update the date accordingly, and I'll use the image that I exported a frame of from the video. I'll use that image within that template as well and center it as necessary. And so once that's there, that template is YouTube thumbnail is done for that day, for that vlog, and then I'll go into export and I'll download that image onto my phone, and then I'll go into YouTube Studio's app, and the video is probably going to be done uploading by that point. I'm going to go into the app, I'm going to be editing the video, and then customizing or using a custom thumbnail. And then after using that custom thumbnail, I'll that video will be updated. And so that's the whole process of the vlog. So all of that will maybe take 5 to 10 minutes. Recording it, editing it, publishing it, as well as the Canva design, the thumbnail. Since I have a set template that I use, so I'll change the date, the text, as well as the color as well. So whatever I'm feeling or whatever goes well with the colors that are in the actual image. So yeah, that's my vlog. Then I have my podcast. So again, I'll walk through current iteration, very simple. So for this episode, for example, I'm recording this in the park. I have my, what is this called? Power Device microphone, lapel lavalier mic. So I'll plug that in, I'll start recording. I'll use the recorder app on my Google Pixel device, and then I'll start recording. So this is what you're listening to right now. And then once it's done, I'll save it, and then I'll go into desktop, where I will go to recorder.google.com, which has all those recordings that I have from my phone. So it'll be on desktop. Then I'll download that specific recording. Then I'll use that audio file, which for whatever reason is an MP4 instead of an M4A for whatever reason, even though it's a video file format. But regardless, it's an MP, whatever file it is. I go to a file converter site and convert that file format to an MP3 file. And then once I convert that MP3 file, I'll import that podcast, raw audio file. I'll import my intro music and then my outro clips, which are consistent, right? So I don't need to change those. Once I have those, I'll import all 3 of those files. So the raw audio of the actual podcast, as well as the intro and the outro. Then I'll use Audacity to place those and do some editing. So I'll usually just amplify my recording, and then just shift over from a timeline perspective of when the intro is, when my audio begins, when that ends, and when the outro begins. And then once that's there, I export that as an MP3. So that's the audio piece. And then I'll go into Podbean, which is the podcasting hosting site that I use. And then I'll upload the audio in there. I'll upload the title, update the title, update the description, and then I'll schedule the episode for whenever I want it to release. So that's the audio portion. I also published my podcast on YouTube, right? So for that portion, I use a combination of Shotcut and Lightworks. I was using Shotcut for the most part, but it wasn't working for a little bit. But now it's working again. But for the time it wasn't working, I was using Lightworks. So either one works. Either way, I'll import. Oh, so the step I'm forgetting here is I'll go into Canva again. So I have another template for my podcast YouTube thumbnail. So I'll just edit that text with whatever the episode title is and download that image as
JPEG or PNG, whichever one. And then I'll go into the video editor of Shotcut or Lightworks. I'll import that image, and I'll import that MP3 file with the intro podcast and the outro. And then if I'm in Shotcut, I'll do a little fade in, fade out. If I'm in Lightworks, I didn't figure that out. It should be easy, but I just didn't do it. And once that's timed up, once I move the thumbnail to be the length of the whole video, I'll export that as an MP4, and then I'll go into YouTube, and then upload that MP4 file. I don't need to update the thumbnail because that video is just an image, so it doesn't really matter. So it'll automatically pick whatever section of the video, but it's the same image for the entirety of the video. So that thumbnail's there. Then I'll go through the whole process of uploading it, update the description, the video title on YouTube as well as the description on YouTube is going to be the same title and description as I used on Podbean. So it's going to be consistent across whether you listen to it on a podcasting an app like Spotify or Google Podcasts or whatnot, as well as if you listen to it on YouTube. So those titles and descriptions are going to be the same. And so that's and then I'll schedule to publish whenever a little bit after. So I'll actually schedule to publish the audio on Podbean at around maybe 1 a.m. on like Wednesday morning, and then because it usually takes a few hours for it to actually be released, whatever that process is on Spotify and Google Podcasts, and it'll take a few hours for it to release. So I want it to be out and public by Wednesday morning. Ideally, sometimes it takes a little bit longer than that, later Wednesday or sometimes even Thursday or Friday. So I can't control that too much, and then I'll schedule to publish the podcast on YouTube, that video, Wednesday later in the day, so noon or afternoon or something. So that's the podcast. The newsletter, if you listen to my SciOS, I have a weekly review that I do, and I've been doing for the end of last year, as well as really formalizing it and doing it pretty much every week in 2021. And so what I do there is I actually do the weekly review. So that's the first step of actually doing it. So I'll usually do that Sunday sometime, and if I'm lazy, I'll do it Monday morning, hopefully first thing. So I'll do that weekly review, and then I will go into Wix, and I'll go into email campaigns, and then I have a template that I've already used, and I'll actually duplicate the most recent newsletter that I've sent out that previous week, ideally. And so I will go into that. I'll go into duplicate. I'll update the necessary, the title, the date, and then I'll fill in, I'll just, basically a copy thing at that point of what my actual review was. That's the content of the newsletter on a weekly basis. It's that what I've learned in my weekly review, my improvements, what I'm focusing on, etc. Right? So what you read in that newsletter are my actual things from my weekly review that I have noted, found insight on, etc. So, and then once that's there, I'll go into, I also have the links to content, right? So I'll go into my vlog. So I'll go to YouTube, I'll go to Content Studio on desktop, and I'll go to the most recent videos. So that encompassing week, so the last 7 days or so, from that Monday to Sunday or Sunday to Saturday, or whatever the timings are. I'll copy the link and embed that section, that link in there to the YouTube vlogs. Then I will do the same with the podcast in terms of just getting the links from Spotify, from Google Podcasts, as well as Podbean. It's not on Apple, so I definitely want to get it on Apple, since a lot of people do listen to podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So that's that. And then I have the links to my blog posts as well. And so once I'll go into cyvawesome.com/blog, and I'll go to all the posts that were published for that week, and I'll copy that link and then post it in there, and it'll automatically populate the image as well as the first few couple lines there. And once that's done, I'll just go in, schedule to publish. I'll update the title of the subject line to match the title of what I've named it, and I'll schedule to publish for whenever I want to release it, ideally Sunday evenings, and then that's that. And then the last step is after it's published on ideally Monday or Tuesday, I'll go in and update my website page of cyvawesome.com/newsletter, and I'll add in that most recent newsletter that was published on that Sunday. So that's the newsletter. And then the last content piece that I want to talk about is my Unplugged Side Budgets channel. So that one, I set up my harmonium, set up my mic, set up my phone for the video piece of it, so that I can get the best angle from a video perspective, best sound from an audio perspective. I tested a couple times to make sure the audio is nice volume, so that there's no not reverb, but if I make sure the volume is right, basically. I forgot what the word is called. I'm not a audio guy. So I'll do that, and then I'll maybe before setting that up or after it's set up but not recording, I'll practice in the budget whatever I want to sing, whatever I want to play, whatever intro I want to do, etc. And if there's any variations or anything like that, I'll just make sure to practice that as well. And then I'll press record on my phone, and then I'll start the audio. I'll let a few seconds go by actually, and then I'll start playing, singing, etc. Stop recording on Audacity, stop recording on my phone for video, and then so by the way, I use a Fifine, I don't know how to pronounce it, Fine USB mic for the audio, by the way. But what I'll do is stop the audio, stop the video, and then if I'm recording multiple, I'll just follow that same process for that next budget. And then after it's recorded, I'll go into Audacity. I'll edit it a little bit if I need to, and then so what the reason I edit or let the first few seconds roll by on the audio is because if there's any ambient noise or whatever, there's a little effect on there that you can run to the audio that you can lessen or diminish that environment noise if it's consistent throughout. So like it needs a baseline, and then it can get rid of that baseline as part of the rest of the audio. So it helps if there's a little AC droning noise or whatnot in the background. So it helps with that. So once that's fully edited to whatever length I want it to be in accordance with my video, I'll go into Shotcut or Lightworks, whichever editor I'm using for that time, and I'll go in and I'll import both of the audio file as well as the video file, and then so I'll actually, since the video file has skipped a step there, it'll be on Google Photos, so I'll go on Google Photos, I'll download the file on desktop to my File Explorer, so then I can access it on desktop. So I'll go into the video editor, I'll import the video and the audio, I'll sync them up so that they're synced up, so that you hear exactly what you're seeing at the correct time. And then before I was only using the audio from the mic, but now it gets a little bit of nice, almost like a hall type setting, a little bit of reverb. If I use both the audio from the mic as well as the audio from the phone as well as part of the video, so it gets that double amplification, if you will. And so I like that. I actually haven't asked anyone how they like it, but that's what I've been doing for the most recent videos that I published. And so I do that. And so once it's synced up and sounds how I want it to sound, I'll export the video as an MP4, and I'll go into YouTube and upload that, get the lyrics, go through the standard uploading process, update the description with the lyrics, add in the playlist thing, as well as the ending screen, the playlist pop-up, as well as the ending screen, which is the same as the previous video, so it's import video if you used YouTube Studio before. And then I'll schedule to publish usually on Sunday mornings. And so that's that. So yeah, I've just gone through all 5 pieces of content, right? Also, I guess it might behoove me or you to, so the time frame for all this, so like the blog, like I said, I think depending on, after, I'm not counting the actual journaling process because that's independent of the blog, in a sense, right? So outside of that, it maybe takes 10 to 30 minutes, depending on the length of the blog. The vlog, it takes 5 to 8 minutes, maybe. The podcast, after the recording, it'll take maybe, it takes an hour, because end to end in terms of the exporting of the videos, as well as the uploading to YouTube and going through that. The YouTube step, for whatever reason, it takes a long time. So that's the real bottleneck there. The actual work that I'm actually doing, it maybe takes 5 to 10 minutes. The rest of the time is just waiting for stuff to export or upload. The newsletter, the review maybe takes 30 minutes to an hour on a weekly basis. But the actual news and the newsletter itself, when I'm doing it on Wix, maybe takes an hour. Not even an hour, maybe 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the length and how much original stuff I write versus just kind of copy pasting or paraphrasing what was in my weekly review. And then the unplugged, the recording process, depending on how many takes, usually I've gotten better at just, even if there's some mistakes that I noticed that I've done, I'll let it go recently, because I really want to embrace that process of making mistakes and whatnot. And I realize that's going to happen. I can't expect to be perfect, and I don't want to set that precedent of people listening for it to be perfect. And so I'll upload, so that the recording maybe takes about 15 to 30 minutes per budget, recording it, or maybe sometimes it's at first take, and so it's 5 minutes, and then the rest of the time editing and publishing maybe takes 15 to 20 minutes, and then the rest of the time is kind of waiting again. Yeah, so I think that's all of them. But yeah, so hopefully that gives some insight into how I'm able to produce so much content, maybe compared to other people, because I'm able to leverage stuff that I'm already doing, right? I'm already writing a journal. I'm already doing a weekly review. For the vlog, it's just 1, 2, 3 minutes of me recording myself for what I'm doing throughout that day. And for the unplugged, I'm already practicing bhajans, playing harmonium, so let me just record it. So this is already things that I'm already doing. So how can I leverage that content, leverage the time to create that content? So hopefully that gives some insight into that process, how long it takes, what my energy, time investments on a daily, weekly basis are for each of these, and the whole process. If you're wanting to get started on something, hit me up. If you're more advanced than me, let me know. I'll hit you up, and we can collab or something, bruh. But that's that. Hopefully you guys learn how I do this. If you guys want some more insight, feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to share any more details, one-on-one or whatnot. So I know this is reach on 30 minutes, so I'll let you guys go. So thanks for listening to another episode of Sai's Eyes. I'll see you when I see you.